Good morning, viewers. You're now watching Hornbill TV. Shock and grief continued to spread across Manipur after 3 prominent Baptist church leaders were killed in a deadly ambush in Kangpokpi district. The pastors were reportedly returning from a church gathering when unidentified armed militants opened fire on the convoy, leaving several others injured. The incident has triggered widespread condemnation, shutdowns and renewed concerns over the fragile security situation in the violence-hit state. But as tensions rise once again, questions are also being raised over civilian safety and the continuing cycle of ethnic conflict in Manipur. And to give us more updates and information, let's connect to our reporter Mubasir. Hello Mubasir.
Yes.
Thank you Mubasir for joining us. Mubasir, what's going on there?
Well, right now, after these 2 incidents yesterday happened, first in the morning at this Kangpokpi district, where this 3 church leaders who were traveling back in 2 vehicles from this to Chandpur after attending a church event. They were waylaid at this Kangpokpi district and they were attacked by these unknown miscreants, and then which led to the death of these 3 peoples. Including a very respected, gentleman who was the former secretary of this MBC. 3 of them immediately died in the spot, and later on, this 4 out of the 4 injured persons, 3 were, rushed back to Imphal Caesar Hospital, where Chief Minister Yumnam Khemchan, along with, his deputy Lossi Diko, Home Minister Mr. Govindas Kontogzam, and other MLEs and all the, concerned officials rushed to the Caesar Hospital, and, they inquire about their conditions, and in fact the Chief Minister in his Twitter handle made the declaration that all the the treatment costs will be borne out by the state government, and he condemned the incident unequivocally. However, later on we came to know that other travelers who were traveling were also being detained probably in retaliation to what happened in the church leaders. So what happened with this church leader? Around 20 travelers traveling in 5 vehicles were detained in certain areas. Backdoor negotiations are since started and going on, but unfortunately, the violence-related incidents were continued to happen yesterday, unabated. Later in the evening, around 6:45, a Chiru tribal guy, a Chiru Naga guy who was traveling back to home from Imphal after attending a function in Imphal. He was traveling back to his village in Chandel district along with his family. Their vehicle was attacked by by militant. I will say militant again. Immediately killing this Chiru Naga guy and grievously injuring his wife. His wife was later rushed to Imphal for further treatment. Later, we also came to know that both these communities reside side by side for ages. The traveling in the highways and have become very difficult for all the travelers.
Right,
detentions
Mubasir.
of the vehicles have been happening. Yes, back to you.
Right, Mubasir. 2 separate deadly ambushes have now been reported, as you've also mentioned. So it has been reported within just few hours in different parts of Manipur. So when you say security, what are security agencies saying at this point about any, say, possible connection between these attacks?
Security, the problem is, mistrust between the communities, and even with the security agencies have increased tremendously in recent past. Said that is the main question. It is not possible to deploy security personnel in all the hills, in all the hillocks and hills, and in all the highways. It will not be virtually possible, because when these 2 communities who are living, all the communities in fact, who are living side by side together for such a long ages, certainly started attacking one another. It is very difficult for security personnel also. They cannot also reacted in a dramatic manner also, because of the fact that the traveling in highway is an important part of everybody's life. So right now, detention from both the communities are going on. Detention of vehicles, people who are fellow travelers who are not aware of the situation, who were probably going to some other places while returning back. Their vehicles being stopped by other community members saying that this happened, you cannot go, things like that. So this is the unfortunate turns of events that are happening currently in Manipur. The incident, quite interestingly, the incident happened right when Chief Minister Mr. Y. Khepchan was planning to visit this Churachandpur for the first time. He was actually planning to visit Churachandpur. Later on, many cookie organizations expressed that he should not travel to Churachandpur by seeing at the law and order situation. Right when such conversations are going on, this two incidents happened yesterday and still going on at the moment. After this incident, as I mentioned, shutdowns were first declared in this Kangpokpi area. Later on, it spread to this Churachandpur, More, and other places. Yes, back.
Basi, it's quite disturbing and it's quite questionable on the security measures as well, because this is not the first incident. If I was to list it just in the past 2 months, Mubasir, from April 7 till this latest incident, there has been 6 such tragic incidents that has taken place. So when we talk about security, starting from April 7, Mubasir, which the incident that happened in Bishnupur, where bomb rocket attacked, it killed 2 children, right? It started
Yes,
from
yes.
April 7. And now coming to May 13th, Mubasir, where the incident in Kangpokpi, and the latest one again. So Mubasir, something is really wrong there, because when we talk about security measures, we have been discussing about the incidents that have taken place and the tight security measures that have been put in place after that. But till today, there has been bloodshed. And it's not even about either whether if it's a cookie or a Meitei, because at the end of the day, these are unarmed civilians.
Yes, you raise a relevant, very relevant issue. In fact, not only about if you talk about this since this beginning of this April, first this Bishnupur incident, Tronglao incident where 2 children were killed, murder. Then later on, not only that incident, later on this many arson related incident happened in Indo-Myanmar border also. After that, many incidents happened in Urkhul also. So in many places things are happening, but quite questionably or quite interestingly, what is missing is the accountability factor. Nobody none of the situation, none of the cases that you mentioned was reached to it logical conclusion or legal conclusion. The perpetrators were not caught. Some of them are caught, but there is still, the cases are still pending. But in most of the cases, the things happen quite mysteriously. In fact, you mentioned about this Bishnupur incident. Still, there is no explanation, no update whatsoever from both from the central government, state government, also from this investigating agency NIA. In spite of the fact that they are well respected and they have taken over the case, there is no update. So you raise a very pertinent question. What these security agencies are doing, what the state government is doing, what the central government is doing. We cannot say that they are not aware of the situations, and while on the other hand such things are repeating in different quarters, from different corners of the state. First this Bishnupur Tronglao, then many incidents in Urkhul, then this Indo-Myanmar border area in this Kamjong district where suspected cross-border militants burned down many houses. Later on, particularly this attack, in highways is a major cause of concern. Manipur being a landlocked state, it entirely depend upon these highways, as their lifeline. So to travel to different part to travel to one part from another, as an example, this 20 people detained, including many other people belonging to many other community also. They have included, the people belonging to this, this Nepali also. So everybody is a victim here. So it's a matter of concern about this, yesterday incident also. In the beginning, there was a blame game between different organizations and different groups. Later on, all majority of the group, be it Naga-related group like Juf, be it Meitei-related group like Arambai Tengol or other groups, all have made this press statement saying that they have nothing to do with the incident. But so in spite of the fact that
are there any other suspicions of, or on any other organizations that lead to maybe anyone taking responsibility so far?
None of the people or organizations have taken responsibility so far, and I don't think anybody will take responsibility also, because you cannot, one cannot take responsibility for killing, this unarmed civilian who were this particular, church leader were well respected across the community line. Mr. B. Sitlau, who was the former secretary of this MBC, I have cover many of program by MBC, both in Impal and other places, be it religious function or a festival like Christmas related functions. They are this MBC have members belonging to what Meitei, Kuki, be it Nagas, or they are respected across the community line. So they are elderly person about it, they are unarmed and elderly person. They were traveling and they were in fact attending a church program in Chandpur and returning back home, and suddenly this Muslim open fire upon them. Such thing cannot be, there cannot be an explanation for such thing. I think authorities should take up some stringent measures to punish both this incident, to punish the perpetrator of this incident, as well as the perpetrator of other incidents like that happened in Vishnuputra, Laupi, or other places. Yes, back to you.
Basi, so coming to the latest victim, who was identified as Chiru Naga, who was also a civilian, who was just returning home with his wife. So what is the situation on the ground in Jujangtek right now after this latest incident? And Mubasi, are any local residents living in fear of further violence? Because obviously, violence has been taking place almost it's so certain now that we have to, even at the back of our mind, it's like, what new is going to happen there?
Well, later on, this Jujangtek Village Authority released a statement saying that the incident happened just outside or just above their village jurisdiction, and they have nothing to do with it and things like that. However, situation remains very tense. Once and for all, the people who are, armed wielding people have to be disarmed. Disarmament have to be, enforced totally. Be it all the community, members of all the community, be it Meitei, Kuki, or Naga. What happened is, what happened in Manipur is, distrust, this trust deficit between the community have increased to such an extent that, even civilians, have started arming themselves to defend villages to defend their land. So they have the problem in Manipur is, you might have seen in the news also, women folk and other protesters blocking the way, blocking the road of this Assam rifle convoy and other security personnel convoy. What is being happening is, there is a mistrust or a trust deficit between the civilian and the security forces, as well as between the different communities. So people need to build this trust, need to bridge this trust deficit. Until and unless people started trusting one another, peace will be a distant dream in Manipur. Because right now what is happening is, nobody is trusting other parties. So it is becoming very difficult in Manipur. The travelers are suddenly being stopped. If not stopped, they are being attacked in the hill area using sophisticated weapons like snipers and all. So it's a very, very serious issue. Yes, back to you.
Basi, so I'd like to ask you about the update on Chiru Naga's wife, who has been hospitalized and has been in critical condition. Is there any hope, Mubasir, of survival?
She was first given treatment at Bishnupur District Hospital. Later on in the evening, late evening, around 10 p.m. etc., we got to know that she has been shifted to Imphal for further treatment, because in District Hospital there is not much facility. So she is currently being treated in Imphal. Right now, she is in very serious condition. There is no doubt about it. But right now, as far as the report last came in, her condition is stable, and her condition is stable. Fortunately, or we all pray that nothing unfortunate happened to her. But her son also got injured. But the situation is more serious with the wife. Above it, the detentions are going on between the two parties, both the communities. The vehicles, coming back from, distant, people coming back from distant places. Their vehicles are being stopped, both by both the community. With the things have started to settle down a little bit between the Maitai and Kuki thing. Then they started between the hill veterans. So the things are very serious at the moment. It's a very big challenge for the state government as well as for the central government. As far as state government is concerned, the new government led by Mr. Khemchan is obviously trying hard, but there is no statement from the central government so far. I think central government need to step in. Home Ministry should need to step in, take some concrete step, initiate some trust building measures, or initiate some law enforcing related incidents. The cases that are pending from earlier issue need to be solved. Perpetrators need to be caught and taught a lesson that so you cannot get away by killing civilians and attacking unarmed people traveling in highways. Yes, back to you.
Mubasir, speaking about Jojangtek or Bishnupur to Nune route, has similar incidents occurred in the past? For Bishnupur, yes, but what about Jojangtek?
Not many incidents happen in Jojangtek, but you cannot rule out the violence in Manipur. With the so much distrust between the communities and so much armed militant as well as miscreants are roaming in different part of the state. It is going to be very difficult. First, this Biren Singh-led government was sent by the central government. He was forced to resign. Then there is this president rule. During the time of president rule, large-scale combing operations were conducted, and many, as stated by the state government, many arms and ammunition are recovered. Many people are being, arrested. In fact, according to police report, miscreants are being arrested on daily basis. Some 3, 4, 5, 6 individuals are being arrested related to some or other form of this crime. But in spite of all this effort, the violence still continues. There was a renewed hope after the formation of this new government led by Mr. Yumnam Khemchand, particularly because he is respected by all the communities. Earlier there was a Kuki community have a reservation over Mr. Biren Singh, but after this Mr. Yumnam Khemchand coming back to power, there was renewed hope in the state, particularly because Khemchand have started traveling to hill districts, even to Kuki area. He started traveling to Kuki area, meeting Kuki MLAs. He was instrumental in shifting Bunjagil Balti, the Kuki MLA from Churchandpur to Guwahati. Unfortunately, he died, but Mr. Yumnam Khemchand was quite vocal and quite visible in having water community. So there was a renewed effort and renewed hope in the state that somehow the government will manage to bring peace back to the state. But unfortunately, all this is then once again started repeating since April. A series of events have been happening. About the Zhongzhang, you just mentioned about Zhongzhang. The problem is, the highway run through different part of the state, not only Zhongzhang. And when people traveling back to home, they have to, went past many of the villages, many of the these secluded places where armed miscreants are roaming. I must say openly, in spite of the fact that the security personnel are present in huge numbers, but they also have limitations because all the street, all the nook and corners of the state could not be covered by the security all the time. Even right when people have so much mistrust over the security personnel itself, their own movement, convoy movement is being obstructed several times by different community, suspecting they are suspecting some or other motives. Yes, back to you.
Right, Mubasir, are there any more updates or any new information?
Probably Chief Minister Yumnam Khemchand will give an update hopefully today itself. But the most at the moment, the most pressing question is detention of these travelers by water community. Some 20 community members were first detained by Kuki village yesterday, and later in the evening and today also we have some report about other detention in other villages, also in Naga village also, as a retaliation of one another. So the state government is working overtime to release those detained people. The talks are going on behind the scene. There is one reason why state government cannot launch all-out effort and things like that. Hopefully all these detained people will be safely returned. People are waiting. Their family members are waiting with quite. You can understand. When such things are happening, when violence are happening everywhere, and your family members are being detained in a highway, it's a very, very difficult time for the family members. Unfortunately, all these things will be settled down. Let's hope for the best.
Right, Mubasir, yes, we can only hope for the best. But thank you for joining us, and thank you for giving us the updates, Mubasir. Well, at this stage, officials have not publicly confirmed that the two ambushes are directly linked to each other or officially connected to the broader ethnic violence. However, the incidents are taking place against the backdrop of the continuing Manipur conflict, that has evolved tensions among Kuki-Zo, Meitei and now some Naga inhabited areas since 2023. Several factors are why observers are viewing the attacks with concern. One, both incidents occurred in already sensitive districts with heavy security presence and past militant activity. One attack involved prominent Thadou Baptist Church leaders in Kangpokpi, a Kuki majority area. The second involved a Chiru Naga civilian near Jujangtek in Bishnupur district. The attacks happened within hours of each other, increasing fear of escalation and retaliatory violence. And with that said, there is still no official confirmation on who carried out the attacks, whether the victims were specifically targeted or ethnic reasons, or whether the incidents were coordinated either. Authorities are reportedly investigating all angles, including militant involvement and possible links to ongoing ethnic tensions. Until security agencies release any verified findings, it would be more accurate. The incidents come amid the continuing tensions in Manipur, though officials have not yet confirmed. For now, that's all. Thank you for watching Hornbill TV.